This episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast is brought to you by Nomadicare. Now, personally, I love Nomadicare. I've used Nomadicare, and I recommend the company to all new travelers. What Nomadicare does is it takes the fear out of getting set up with a bad recruiter, which is the biggest fear that you have jumping into this journey. So they sit down, they interview recruiters, they vet them, get them on a list, and then provide them to you as a free service, as a free recruiter matchmaking service in order to get you started on your journey. Now, usually you only get 2 recruiters going through Nomadicare, but being a listener of the show, you can get 3. So this is how it's going to work. You go to nomadicare.com/Dylan. You will get set up with 3 recruiters to be on your dream team, as well as a guide to get you started on your journey.
Erran Gipson, where are you at in the world right now?
St. Augustine, Florida.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dylan Callier, and today I got Erran Gipson on of Kim and Erran G.
Yes.
And we are going to be talking about IR technology and IR technologists and traveling and how they all fit together. Erran, can you give a little bit of a background about how you got into interventional radiology technology?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a cross-training of radiology or basic x-ray. So once you get into the hospital, there's different realms you can go: CAT scan, MRI, and then basically interventional, because nuclear medicine is a different school, ultrasound's a different school. Obviously, back in the day, it was all kind of a cross-trained modality, but those are the 3 that have stuck with straight out of x-ray. Okay. Also mammography and all those things. So there's branches, DEXA. So interventional is another just cross-train. The minute I was in school, so I worked in a front office right out of high school in the x-ray department, knew that's what I wanted to do, saw the interventional department working. They work hand in hand with a physician. I was like, that seems pretty interesting, and just started going for it ever since. So the minute that I came out of school, I only did a very small little bit of x-ray and got right into interventional radiology. Okay. And that's how, and then it's, pretty much training from there, pretty extensive within the department. So. Got it.
Yeah. Very cool. Can you, you gave a general overview. Can we go a little bit more into kind of what your role is within the hospital?
Yeah, absolutely. So as the technologist in interventional, are you a golf fan at all?
I don't follow. No.
So I'm hoping that your listeners are some golf people, because it's a good way to describe it. So we assist the interventional radiologist. Okay. Those guys are radiologists, and then they go 2 more years in interventional, and it's basically surgical x-ray. So we can use any type of modality, MRI, CT, ultrasound, regular x-ray, fluoro, to do minimally invasive procedures to help the patient. So whether that's line placements, stopping an internal bleeding, a lot of pelvic traumas, we can go in and stop the bleeding without taking them to the OR. We get a lot of, but then you're also diving into stroke. We can go in and, get the clot out of the brain, all through a needle stick in the femoral artery, or through, they're having different approaches. We've gone straight carotid stick, stuff like that, but it's all through a needle stick. Okay. So I always say my interventional radiologist could run a wire through a tailpipe and bring it out the alternator of the car. Yeah. So where that relates to me is my way of describing it is we're a little bit more advanced when it comes down to the assisting of the physician. We control the machinery, we set up the trays, but we're basically their caddy. Instead of just, here you go, here's your stuff. A good interventional technologist, now granted there are levels, right, to any profession. There's there's people that just don't care and they just kind of do what they got to do. And then there's people that want to be really good. So a really good IR tech and a really good IR doc have an amazing relationship, to where it's almost like the pro golfer and the caddy, where the doctor's the pro golfer. He makes the swings. He's the guy on the thing. But the caddy's like, you know what? I noticed the wind's coming in at 5 miles an hour from the west. I think you should maybe take a 7 instead of a 6. And that's a lot of times where we'll help out the doc and say, I don't know, like I see a different angle. Let's try this instead. And the doc will be like, damn, that's a good point. Let's give that a go. Please help me out. And so we're their hands as well. whenever they need us. And so we're very side by side, but it also depends on what, organization you go to. Do you go to a teaching facility where there's fellows, attendings, and residents, or are you a private practice? When you're a private practice, you're more useful.
Got it.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So are your positions primarily always in the hospital?
Yes, absolutely. Now there are outpatient clinics that are popping up now. Interventional radiologists are doing like vascular clinics where they're doing dialysis, fistulas, different things like that for dialysis help, and just different vein clinics and things like that we can assist with in that realm, running the fluoro and doing all those things.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
And so before we started recording, we're talking about some different levels kind of within your field. So there's the IR technologist, and then there's an IR technician. Can you go into what the differences are?
Yeah. Oh, you're going to get my blood boiling here. No, so this is something commonly that we run into, and I've always wanted to be a little advocate for this. And I feel like a total douche sometimes when I correct people, but it is the thing, right? So they're even an x-ray. So people say, I was x-rayed by the most amazing technician. And that's where it's like, well, in the hospital, you're going to come across technologists. Reason being is we went to accredited college, either a 4-year or 2-year degree. We have a degree in radiologic sciences, or an AS in science, or a bachelor's of science. And then we've also taken a national registry that's sponsored by, just like they have, the nursing registry, we have an ART registry. And so we take that national board, and then after that, you're able to sit. A technician read a book, and I'm not joking, read a book that basically our professors in college told us that we could have been technicians the first 3 to 4 weeks into school. And that's introduction, right? So they read a book, and then they're able to shoot basic x-rays in a doctor's office. So there are seasoned technicians that have been around in a doctor's office long enough, that have played with the machines enough to kind of figure something out, but it's still not the level that you're going to get from a technologist who's obviously graduated from a 2-year, 4-year program, and had multiple thousands of clinical hours and stuff like that. So that's the difference.
Got it. And we do have, at least in the physical therapy world, a little bit of a hierarchy as well. So you have your physical therapist, which now they have to get a doctorate. So that's minimum. I was on a fast track program, so I got it in 6.5 years, but it's minimum kind of 6, anywhere from 6 to 8 years total of schooling. Wow. But as a PT, full PT, you have to get your bachelor's in health science like you did, or something of that nature. And then you take the graduate course to be a PT. Underneath the PT is the physical therapy assistant, where they are aiding us with treating the patients. So I do the evaluations, I can discharge patients, I can do the reevaluations. But if I am overbooked and I need help, I can delegate those tasks to the physical therapy assistant, who is skilled in providing the treatment. But so I would be basically calling the shots, and then I would hand the patients off to them, to somebody that I trust. And then they're taking care of them, trying to go for those goals that I initially set. And then below that is the physical therapy aide. So the assistants go to about 2 years of schooling. And then the physical therapy aides are usually kind of somebody there to help with the flow of the clinic. So they'll do the laundry. They'll kind of keep an eye on patients, making sure they're not, doing something unsafe on a leg press or something.
Right.
Helping out, answering the phones and stuff like that. And so those are I've had students who are still in high school working as aides who have been awesome. I've had kind of some older individuals who've been doing it for a long time, and they basically run the clinic for me. It's great. But yeah, same thing with the hierarchy there. And I have a funny story about, so I used to work at Radio Shack for 7 years. And during school, I would go back home on the weekends and work. And one day my kindergarten teacher walked in, that I hadn't seen in a very, very long time, probably since kindergarten. And she's like, "Oh, hi." And I was like, "Oh, do you recognize me?" And she's like, "Of course." And so we got to talking, and I told her I was going to physical therapy, but it was very, my town, a lot of people my age were going to physical therapy assistant school. And so she's like, "Oh, so that's a 2-year degree, right? And the assistant." And I was like, "No, I'm going full physical therapy." And she was my favorite teacher, because she would always let me like take longer naps than all the other students. And so like there'd be like
very nice.
time.
Okay.
There'd be like reading time right after nap time.
I love that.
And she let me like sleep longer than most of the other students. So she wouldn't try to wake me up or anything. So I thought I was like her favorite. And well, when I told her I was going for full physical therapy, she's like, wow, I'm really surprised. That's really hard.
No, she didn't.
Yeah, and so I realized it was like, so like the glass broke, like the realization, like, oh, she thought I was just slow
and let you sleep.
Oh, so that let me sleep extra.
I love that story. That's amazing. That's an amazing
but, yeah, so yeah, I'm a full physical therapist. You get your doctorate now. It's like in 6 years. It's pretty rigorous, very rigorous program. It's very competitive to get into as well. But I couldn't do my job without my physical therapy assistants either.
Right.
I love
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest misconception too that we see in the hospital is, a lot of times we get referred to as button pushers or things like that. And, there's a lot of patient knowledge when it comes down to pathology and, what we're actually doing, what's going on with the patient. I mean, we basically follow the same level as nursing school at the beginning. And then when they start getting into pharmacology, we start getting into like radiation and, radiation sciences and physics and stuff like that around what radiation does. But yeah, like all the pathology and everything like that, we follow the same kind of line of nursing school as well, so that we have that same kind of level of patient care as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how many years of experience does it take for an IR technologist to become a traveler?
That's a really, really good question. So technically, a company's going to say 1 to 2 years of experience, right? Mm-hmm. In my opinion with that, there's so much within that realm that even I'm seeing it now. I basically did something. I've been an IR tech for 12 years. And so I did something for the first time last contract. And that was where I was actually scrubbed in with the physician in neuro, pulling clots out of the brain actively while the patient's having a stroke on the table. So that was like, whoa, like I've always been in a support role that at a teaching facility, never have I been hands-on. So
got it.
With that being said, if you are at a small facility, and I think this goes for any profession, if you're at a small facility and you're only seeing a handful of exams, you're going to get out there into the travel world and just be like, I don't know what this is. But if you're basically really good with your basics, which I've always said, it takes about a year for you to really start to understand interventional radiology and understand what it takes. So I would say 1.5 to 2 years of IR training would be a good time for you to go off into the traveling world. And honestly, it wouldn't be as much of a shock. You're still going to learn as you go. And that's why I wanted to tell the 12 years and I did something for the first time. Mm-hmm. Because I'm 110 times better than I was when I left Jacksonville and than I am now, right? So I'm like seeing so many things now. And learned traveling,
Absolutely. My last contract, I got to have some guidance from PT that's been doing it for a while. And when we got, PT outpatient, you'll have cancellations and stuff, and people, it's raining that day in Southern California, so they're like, oh, I can't come in. And so we get some downtime very rarely, but she would pull me to the side and be like, oh, let me show you this ankle mode that I do in order to relieve ankle pain and stuff like that. And so you get to learn as you go along. And especially, from region to region, everything is so different.
Yes.
In the profession. And it's really eye-opening once you get into it.
It really is. And that's just what the beautiful thing about traveling is I would have just been concealed to what my town and what my group of docs did. And as they slowly advance, I would slowly advance and I would get better at what I did. But I've seen things that like, I really have honestly said, there's not too many things that will come into the lab. If it's patient situation, if it's somebody crashing, if it's this or that I haven't seen before based off of all the places I've been around the world. And it's just, it's incredible. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Your job sounds very stressful. What is kind of like the peak stress for your position?
I'd say the peak stress is going to be, and that all depends too. Again, depends where you are. I can relate it to my last contract. My last contract was about the epitome of what you would see. It was a private radiology group, which means there's probably only like 15 of them. And we don't have fellows, we don't have attendings, we don't have residents. So we kind of fill in that role where we're trying to help out as much as we can during the case, where there's one tech, circulating the room, making sure everything's good. And there's one that is in the case. Now that comes with call. And that's usually where the stress comes. So you could be on the 9:30 to 6 shift, which is usually like a call shift. And then you work until 1, 2 in the morning, you come home, and that's just getting through the day. And then you go home and you get called back in at 4, and now you're covering a stroke from 4 to 6, and then you start your day the next day. Maybe you were the 7 a.m. tech. Now, granted, you do go home, you sleep a little bit, but then you start that kind of game over again. And so the call, and depending on what you're doing, a stroke center, cardiac center, where we're covering that as well, along with body, those 3 things, that's going to be the epitome of your stressful day of the traumas coming in, the unknown, the constant go, and then flipping. And then guess what? You're working late because you're on call. So
yeah. Got it. I will say that's one, I don't know if it's a benefit, but one of the nice things about PT is that there's not too many instances where you feel like that person's life is in your hands.
Right.
So, especially outpatient, unless, don't get me wrong, we've had, scenarios, somebody passes out on the bike, falls
100%.
off, and you're trying to figure out, were they stroking? Are they diabetic and didn't eat that morning? What's going on?
Heart problems.
Yeah. And so those do arise, and especially more in the acute setting with neurological patients and stuff like that, you start noticing, their symptoms are getting a little bit worse. Could this be that their stroke is getting a little bit worse as well, or, something popping up? But that,
right.
The one setting where I felt like, you couldn't show up and not be on your A game was in the ICU. When I was there for 10 weeks as a student, and I got to become independent with it. And I was very thankful for that hospital. It was level 1 trauma center, and you're getting people up for the first time that haven't moved in 2 weeks. And so you're working sickest of the sick. They have trachs coming out and tubes everywhere, and you're holding it here, and your foot's blocking something, and you're sitting them up, and then all of a sudden they're starting to desat, and you're trying to figure out if you need to lay them back down or. Man, that was
it's eye-opening, and it's awesome, and that's where it's such a blessing to know what you have to get done, whether it's putting a chest tube in one of those patients' bedside, and then you walk up and you have the ICU nurse there, and that nurse has been taking care of this person. They are so knowledgeable. They're there, and then it's that team mode of I know what I got going on. I know what could happen. I know what this patient, they could tank, they could not. I'll be able to see how that works. And then they're just there to help. And it's this dance that just happens. And that's when you're in that good kind of flow. And I love that when you have that kind of commingling of different professions that honestly are there to ultimately help the patient and use what they've grown to do very well. And then we just counter each other, and boom, it works out. And then it's this fun kind of relationship that you build going forward. And you're right, being in the ICU, being able to work with the different physicians, the different nurses, the different, technologists, it's amazing. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. I do miss that ICU nurse relationship. You just, I would walk up, and that I would always talk to them first, would never go in. It's just how are they doing
100%.
today? Should they be, seen for PT? And they're like, no, they shouldn't. It's okay, well, I'll move to the next one.
Exactly.
They'll probably try and hit you and stuff, or throw something at you, but they could probably get up and walk. It's all right, we're good.
Absolutely. No, that's what makes it awesome. So love that team kind of thing.
Good. All right. Can you describe kind of what that first day would look like for you walking in? Travel contract.
Yeah. A lot of it comes in the interview, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm a huge interview stickler. And that will make or break your whole experience. Funny story. I thought I was on some sort of psychosocial experiment, the last contract that I went into. They told me that they were busy. Every time I hear that, I'm like, okay. Like, I've heard that before. Like, let's be real. I walk in on Monday, and again, this isn't every one of them, but I walk in on Monday, I'm talking to the lead and introducing myself. Now, granted, in interventional, you're working with interventional nurses. They are our nurses, and interventional technologists, and then interventional physicians. And so that's the team. Like, nobody goes into a case without a nurse, a tech, and the physician. And so, you're introducing everybody. They had 39 cases that day with 2 rooms. And they were coming off an entire overnight to where the call team was there. The backup team was there, which was rare. They called that the unicorn call. Okay. They were there, and then they sent them home, and they're short-staffed. And then there was like 15 add-ons on top of the 30, which is insane. Okay. I've only done that at one other facility at Emory University in Atlanta. We would average like 52 cases a day, but we had 6 or 7 rooms. But you're just balls to the wall. Let's go. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things. Usually, typically, you walk around to the rooms, you get introduced, you kind of like see how they do things, see how those physicians are doing things. Because again, I always say I've done 100 million port insertions, not 100 million, 1,000 port insertions. But this is my first one with you, sir, ma'am. Like, so I don't know how you're going to do it, but I kind of get the concept. So let me see you rock and roll, and then I can support you in the best way possible. And that's the same with the nurses. It's the same with the techs. Like, how do you guys operate? And so I always like to take about 2 weeks and say, I know my stuff, but I'm not here to show you my stuff. I'm here for you guys to teach me how you do things. So then that way I can be the best of help to you guys. So that's usually first day, depending on where you're at. Sometimes they pat you on the butt and say, go, and good luck to you. And other times they're like, just take it easy, shadow this person, and I think you guys will be good. And then you just kind of pick it up, and I instantly just want to jump in. That's kind of my thing. Yeah. I'd rather just get in there and get it, take the cobwebs off.
Yeah, yeah. So for an IR technologist who's kind of looking into traveling, what would you say is the average or expected like orientation length? Would it be a day? Would it be a week?
So technically it's going to be, it'd probably be a week, I'd say, at overall the facilities. Like I said, I've only had one facility that was kind of like go. And that was still a teaching facility. So there were fellows and things like that really pick up so I wasn't jumping in with the doc like, okay, dude, like what are we doing? How are you doing this? So it's a little bit easier, but yeah, I'd say about a week to kind of pick up, learn the system, learn how the computer works, learn how the charting is, learning how the patient flow goes, and going from there. So yeah, about a week.
Okay. And you mentioned that you were a stickler for interviews, and I wanted to get into that. What are some questions that you were for sure to ask during the interview to kind of screen out those positions?
Definitely. One thing that's major for me, and I always start this way, I always say, how did the interventional radiologist feel about travelers? And there's a lot of times where, like I mentioned at the beginning, a good relationship is that kind of professional golfer caddy. Like I can help with suggestions. I'm there for him or her if they need me. And they're open to that. A lot of times their backs are turned. They don't want anything to do with us. You're kind of in my way. You're bothering me. And they're also not teaching. And so I'm not learning anything. And I hate that. Right. So I always ask, are they willing for me to walk up and be like, sir, ma'am, like I've never seen it done that way. Why did you do it that way? As opposed to this patient's presentation and they presented that way. And so that's my first question. How do they feel about travelers? Are they open to us? Number 2, I always ask, how do you guys work overtime? Because a lot of times we're the team and we don't leave until the day is done. And so that depends on the interventionalist saying, yeah, you know what, let's just stay. And you get some of those docs that are just like, don't feel like going home because they love what they do. And that's fantastic. But it also drains the staff because he gets 2 or 4 or 5, 6, sometimes I've even seen 12 days off a month, where he works hard and then he's off. Well, we're the same people that are, so how do they work overtime? Do they have a call team that covers it? Or are we expected to stay throughout while the patients are on board? And how's your call look? That's basically my top 3.
Okay. Got it.
And how does the team interact? I'm sorry. That's a big one. How do the nurses and tech interact? Do they like each other, or is it a typical tech-nurse battle? And I've always said that in interventional radiology, I'm a tech nurse. They're nurse techs. The only thing I can't do is push drugs. The only thing they can't do is push the pedal for radiation. Other than that, we're a cohesive team, and let's rock and roll. So I like to see how that team works, because that's interventional. Very good.
When you ask those questions, especially about the team dynamics, I feel like it's very easy for somebody to say, "Oh yeah, we're good here," and then you get there and it's really kind of they're like butting heads with everyone. Are you asking that more for an honest answer? Or are you asking that more for like a gut check and see if you can feel like the hesitancy in their voice?
100% gut check.
Okay.
100% gut check, and I've been doing it long enough. On top of that, I've been the lead of multiple departments, so I've been in charge of the techs and the nurses. I've been to where I've just been in charge of the techs, and I haven't been in charge of the nurses because they're a union and we're not. So you can kind of know that hesitation, and you feel that like, yeah, like we do well together. It's kind of like, okay. Or like, and then I've heard a couple of them, during an interview be like, I can't tell who's who. So it's like, that means they're just intermingling like amazing team. And so they're there to help. It's fun. They're always laughing. They're playing music. You can tell that kind of, oh yeah, we have a blast, man. We have a good time. We hang out together. It's not just separate like things.
Got it. Very good. Very good. Okay. Talking about maybe negotiations and looking at the contract, is there anything that you're looking at specifically before you're signing or accepting?
Yeah, I think it's mainly going to be that overtime and call. That's going to be huge because that's where we would get the most gypped if we came down to it. Making sure that it's about that blended rate so that we feel compensated to be getting up all night long and then working the next day overtime and things like that. So definitely the blended rate overtime call.
Very good. Very good. And outside of the interview, maybe even on that first day you're showing up, are there any red flags that you're looking for that maybe might suggest, I need to be a little extra careful with what I'm doing here, or anything that you would feel like maybe was putting your license at jeopardy? What are some red flags you're keeping an eye out for?
Do you mean like when I get to the facility?
Either a little bit before, during any part of that process of the interview to when you get to the facility,
Yeah, granted, it's such a benefit, and this is why I love doing interventional, is because I get to work with so many different modalities. So, in interventional, guys, I've been around the hospital. My uncle's an orthopedic surgeon. I grew up around orthopedics. Those guys are usually, guys and gals, they're kind of the fun, and they have, now I've seen both sides, but I've seen that interventional guys are relatively fun, and you have the nurses there, and you have the techs, and then, respiratory, and you have at any given time the floor nurse, transporters, and, stuff like that. So you have this intermingle. So there's a lot of times that you can kick off, hey, how do you feel about this? Like, everybody feel okay? Like, are we good? So I've never really felt that way.
Okay.
But it also does come into play. A lot of interventionalists will train their techs because that's all they have. Like, for instance, I was suturing port pockets. They would place the port, doc would walk out, I would suture the port. Now, that was something that I've been trained to do, signed off on, have all these things. And then those docs trained me, went through the whole process, signed off on it, good to go. Okay, awesome. Then I suture the port. So there's different things that they do. And there's times I've been like, not doing it. Don't feel comfortable with that. I'm sorry. I apologize. And they're like, oh, no big deal. Like, no problem. So I think that would be the realm.
Okay. Got it.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, you did. Absolutely. And then is there anything else that you wanted to talk about via IR Technologist that you don't think we've hit on yet?
No, I think we've covered a lot. I do know that there is a show on TV that I'm very proud of. It's Without a Scalpel, and it's on Vimeo now. And it's because they said only 4% of the population knows about interventional radiology, whereas majority of them that say they don't know have actually been to our department. And just, there's a wealth of knowledge there. And, having that team mentality on the floors, floor nursing, respiratory, between interventional, because we're so mobile. We go everywhere. We do a lot of things on the floor. A lot of people don't even know who we are. And that just becomes that level that I've always said, like, why is it that we don't have this relationship of like, you do sometimes, like, you love it when the nurses on the floor are like, damn, here comes IR. Like, they get anything I need done. And it's just that level of like, absolutely, we have, good rapport there. And that's what I think, I'm trying to build with, wanting recognition between the groups. Like, let's understand how we as a team in the hospital support each other, not just nurses, not just docs, not just physical therapy, not just respiratory, but interventional, regular radiology, ultrasound, MRI, how they all play together,
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm aiming to do with these types of episodes, because I feel like there's so much variability, especially in the travel world, even just between things that seem similar, like PTOT. And although we usually have the same goals, we treat it in a very different way. And kind of the things in the placements that we look at are usually pretty different as well.
Right.
And I'm finding out more and more as I go along, like, oh, there's, these people that can travel and these people that can travel. And I didn't even know this job existed. And I want to learn more about that and kind of bringing that to the show, so that we can kind of know everybody's job and kind of see
fantastic
that whole team membership thing going on.
Absolutely. And that's, and I mean, it's not to take anything away from anybody. Like, we all know that if you're a guy walking down the hallways of a hospital, it's doctor. And if you're a female walking down the hallways, it's nurse, right? I mean, you see it all the time. And obviously we've seen that as the profession grows, there's so many people in the hospital that have the same schooling, the same skill level, that can also intermingle into this amazing team of healthcare providers that helps with a patient's outcome. And
Absolutely.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's go grab Kim and we'll kind of wrap up the show.
Awesome.
All right. So now we got Kim, Erran, and the princess in the picture.
Mimi
LaRue. She prefers Queen, but whatever.
Yes,
And we wanted to talk about an amazing resource that you guys are offering. So I'll let you kind of talk about your course, and then we can kind of, talk a little bit about that.
Cool. Yeah. So we have a program called Traveler School, and it's an online training program that basically is an all-inclusive one-stop shop. So understand.
Really, like, they have the couch to 5K. This is like couch to traveler. I mean, it's like
good. Yeah, I like that.
It's like everything you need to know from the start to the finish. Negotiations. We have pay package, housing, bonuses. I mean, checklists. It just runs the gamut.
Yeah, how to find a recruiter, work with a company, which Laura from Nomadicare does a whole module on that, which is incredibly valuable. And basically, it's just a 7-module course. And each module is a specific topic that we dive deeper in the lessons that are in each module. So what we're doing is we're going to go through it as a live class, and it will be a 7-week class. And so you'll have one module every single week with the option that you can go through it all at one time if you want. But what we're going to do is every week in the Facebook group, we're going to do a module recap. And we're going to do a live Q&A and have interviews and have experts come in and kind of go over that specific module that we're talking about. And that will be a 7-week really deep dive into the course.
And we used to have this as kind of an evergreen where anybody could purchase it and go through it at their level, wherever they were, or just start to finish. And so that's when we were like, man, how can we got it out there. People were responding. People gave us feedback, and we're like, how can we just increase the value? And just, we like the more hands-on approach. We're not very like, here, take it and go kind of people. And I think that's what we realized we were missing when that happened. We're like, well, where are people at? Like, what's going on? What do they think? What do they need help with? And so that's why we said, and we never had a name for it. So we were like, you know what? Traveler School, like, that hits, because a lot of people were like, this should be called the Traveler's Bible. It should be called Traveler School. And we're like, awesome. And so that way we can get our hands on there and help people through it.
Because essentially it is like a curriculum, because it's like there's so many things out there to learn about traveling, right? Like, we want to educate ourselves so that we have the tools equipped to have a really good, successful experience as a traveler, which it took us years to figure all this stuff out. And there's so many places you can get information, but we really wanted to make it super simple and put everything you need to know in one place. So it's easy. You can keep going back to it as much as you want, and you don't have to keep searching all over the place. You
Absolutely.
One lump sum. And so that was kind of the idea behind creating a course. And the first, and there goes me.
Yeah.
The first, we're going to open the doors to Traveler School. It's currently closed. We're opening it on May 1st for the first enrollment, and that will be a 7-week course that we go through.
Okay.
And then we'll open it every 4 months. So whenever you're watching this, you can go to kimandernng.com to see when the next enrollment period will be. But right now, the doors are opening May 1st. So if you're watching
well,
this
they're opening before May 1st, but that's going to be when the first day of school is.
Okay. Got it.
And it'll be 6 weeks. And then there's another, so the doors will be closed, and then another enrollment period, and then doors will be closed, and now that class will go through another 7 weeks. So it'll basically be 3 classes a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So listeners, if you're interested, May 1st will be the start of the classes, but by the time this episode is out, the enrollment should be open. So if you're listening to this, you're interested, I'll put everything down in the show notes. It'll also be affiliate link. So that way we're kind of both benefiting from this, and you can help out the show that way if you are a fan and a listener. And then you guys will be launching this every 4 months. So if you're listening to this in the future, you just got to go to Kim and Erran G's website and then see when the next enrollment is. Is this for sonography only or IR technologists only?
No, it's really the foundation of travel for all travelers. And I know there's nuances when it comes to therapy and nursing, and we definitely don't know all the steps when it comes to those specific fields. But this is kind of like a general getting started, just traveling and like the logistical stuff.
I will say, I mean, a lot of our personal stories come from radiology because that's what we know. That's our jam. I think they're great stories, but we also like to hit mindset. That's kind of our niche. That's our niche, whatever you want to call it. And so we love that. And so at every section, we have some sort of mindset that will help you kind of rethink the way, you maybe were thinking about some things, and will help you throughout your contracts, along with every logistical thing you could think of that you would need to help travel.
Yeah. And I was actually a student of you guys's for that first launch. And that was actually when I first learned about on-call and what on-call was. So I got to learn a little bit, outside of the therapy world, because we typically might work some weekends if you're at a hospital, but we don't work weekends. We don't take on-call or anything like that.
Yeah.
Really lucky dog.
Yeah. And then it was just a good resource of information, especially as I was getting started. I was listening to most of them as I was making the travel to my first contract.
Yeah.
And, I will say that, I went through finding housing the second time around using Kim's method.
Yes.
And I went from Southern California, I was paying like $2,000 a month for housing. Now I'm paying about $1,200 a month. So that's about $800 saved per month. Yeah. So definitely worth the investment. If you are interested in taking the course, definitely go check it out. I highly recommend it. And you guys just bring so much energy to it. And Erran, your experience with, running several departments and kind of that interview process was really good as well.
That's my power jam. I'll leave the housing to her.
Yeah.
That's my jam. So I'll take it.
I love it. Thank you for all your support.
No problem, guys.
So funny.
Now, how did you decide to go in and make this course? What was what was the big push?
Honestly, we've been traveling for almost 6 years, and people always asked us questions. People would always message us or email us and ask us, what do you guys do? How, what are you guys doing in life? And how do you get started? What are the things that are going on? And we would answer them and just kind of go through the whole thing. And then we were like,
well, she posted she actually is a published author for Mind Body Green. Yeah. And so she posted an article, and it was about how we sold everything and hit the road and started traveling. And people were like, how do you do that? And so push came to shove. We started telling people how we did it. And there was so much interest in healthcare traveling. And so we basically realized that there wasn't much out there that we knew without bouncing around to all these different areas and being like, well, we don't really know this person. Are they giving us legit things? And we did hear a lot of not so. write
Great
things,
information.
right, from our recruiters.
Well, and I think for us too, like it took so long, like to learn all of the things that we teach, like as far as negotiating and pay and just so many housing even. It took so long and we lost a lot of money along the way. It was like frustrating. It's overwhelming. It can feel a lot of fears come up because there's so much unknown. And so we were like, let's start doing some trainings of everything that we know. We're not experts by any means, but we've learned so much. Let's start doing trainings and like actually teach these new travelers coming in. And people are like, wow, this is amazing. This is so helpful, so valuable. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we're like, why don't we take all of the trainings of all the things that we believe to be so important and save them 3 years of trying to like figure it all out and put it in one place. And then they can just sign in and have everything they need.
Well, and I think too, like we realized during the trainings, we were running 2-hour trainings.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it was like exhausting and fire hosing. We're like, holy crap. And so we're like, what if we actually just took it into segments and really hit it hard and dove really deep, but had maybe 8 videos per module where we tried to do one training on all those 8 videos.
3 hours.
Got it.
That was the real kind of like, and then also for me, just really quick, there was a moment in our travels when I didn't have to try to, you're always wanting to learn, but it didn't become a struggle anymore. And I was actually able to enjoy the adventure without being like, oh my God, another contract's coming up. Like, what if we get taken? What if we're this? What if we're that? What if we don't know what to do or how to do this? And once we started like really researching and learning, there was a point where it was like, awesome, new contract, let's go. And like, I started to really enjoy the adventure. And I want people to have that too. And that's what a big passion push of ours was. We want people to be prepared to be able to enjoy this amazing adventure.
Not be stressed all the time.
Not be stressed
Yeah.
and learn, because we all go to school for what we do. So then why don't we go to traveler school and learn everything we need to know? That was kind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so kind of taking that passion of helping people and making it a one-stop shop and moving forward from there. And, you know, being able to, there's a little bit of a cost, but, you know, looking at, I'm a big fan of psychology, and I know like if there's something free out there, I'm not going to take it seriously. And that's just human nature. And so there's a little bit of an investment to go into it, and that's going to keep you honest. And now that you guys have the schedule up, it's going to keep them honest as well on top of that.
Totally. I think you're making an investment in yourself and your experience and your adventure. And anytime we invest, right, and we put money into something or time into something, we're always show up more fully for it, right? It's just what happens.
Gym life, anything like that. Food,
absolutely.
Things like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, good.
No, I was just going to say the investment, you know, it's a small investment, but what you get out of it and the value you get and the money you get tenfold in return, it's like no brainer, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And plus, I mean, we honestly believe too that going to the psychology of things, like money is an exchange of energy, right? Like we put something, our heart and souls into something that we feel so passionate about. And we're sitting there on Saturday, Sunday, loving this. Now, granted, we would do a module and then get a glass of wine and be like, that was so much fun. Like, loved every minute of it, but it did take time. And there's that level of like putting everything out there for somebody, knowing that like this might help somebody in return, but we also feel supported for giving all the knowledge and going through all the headaches that we did. And then just in turn saying, here you go. 7 weeks makes up 6 years of our life. And just feeling supported by that. And that's just kind of the thing. We get excited, then we want to do more.
Absolutely.
It's just that exchange of energy. That's how I look at it.
Totally. Agreed.
And there's been a couple books I've read on this topic or articles, but one of the stories that stuck out for me, you know, when you charge for something, it's ultimately to make it more sustainable. So you guys are able to take off now. You're in your home state of Florida, to where you can start doing more recordings. You can start, you know, organizing it better to where you're not doing this evergreen thing anymore. Now it's an actual school and you're sitting down, you're creating those relationships. But one story that stuck out with me is Bill Gates. If he would have just stuck in his garage making computers for free and handing them out, would he have ever had the opportunity to wipe out half of the world's cases of malaria in Southern Africa? And it's no. So he was able to grow Microsoft and stuff, and then start doing all this cool stuff. I think he's got like a scholarship out there for like green toilets and things. And I'm a little bit of a Bill Gates fan, but
But no, I mean, that really does say it, because ultimately Kim and I's goal is starting to take off like a month here and there. It was like, okay, we can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the, Traveler School release, did really well in the first month and a half that or how long we even had it out. We've had it out for a while. It's done really well.
Yeah.
And then it ultimately, Kim and I have said, even before we started traveling, we wanted to travel to be able to do different charities, there's Rad Aid, and there's like different things. The Mercy Ship, I would love to go on it, even though they told me that I would be a barista. Like whatever, but that's ultimately what we would love to do.
Well, I think like back to your point, that when you're supported, right, by doing work that you love, you're able to have the time and space to give back even more and to do other projects and to do other things and take the time. We're able to take a month off and just kind of center in and ground in and say, okay, what do we want to work on now? What do we want to bring to life? How can we help more people? We can be on Messenger and message people and like do more trainings because we're supported. And that's kind of the point of it all. When you're supported, you give more,
100%.
And it's really fun to be able to do that. So, and cool. Like you said, charities and all kinds of fun stuff.
It can be amazing.
You need time to do that.
You do.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's like, yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Well, guys, listeners, if you are interested in the course, the Traveler School, go ahead and check out the show notes, the comments below. There will be an affiliate link there. So a little bit of the proceeds will also go towards this show to keep this running sustainable as well. And Kim, Erran, wherever Mimi is, I really appreciate you guys coming on again, talking about your professions and also about your amazing resource. And then for the listeners, if you're looking for the official launch, the next launch of the New Medical Nomads podcast, check out the New Medical Nomads podcast Facebook page. If you have any questions for Kim and Erran, where would you like them to go to for any questions for you guys?
I would say our Facebook group, which is Travel Life, Freedom in Scrubs. And then also our website, which is kimanderrang.com, because on there's everything, every way you can find it.
Very good. Very good. And you guys are also members of the New Medical Nomads group. So if there's any other questions, if you're already on there about this show, you can drop questions in there as well as a listener. And then as always, if you follow us on YouTube, iTunes, any type of shares, comments, likes, posts are going to help us reach the people that we're trying to reach to with all this content and information for traveling. But thank you guys again so much. Always fun to have you guys on.
Thank you for all you do, and definitely for your listeners too. If you guys hear this and enrollment is not open, definitely check back with the show notes, because like we said, if you hear here, we want to support the show as much as we can as well. So definitely go through that link.
Yeah.
And then that way it's just fantastic helping the show.
Win-win.
It's a win-win for
Win-win.
So.
Absolutely. Well, thanks guys. Have fun there in Florida and St.
Well.
And all the listeners, you have safe travels.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.